During the late 19th century and early 20th century, the Ottomans built a strong relationship with the Germans, leading up to the arrival of the German cruisers SMS Goeben and Breslau in Constantinople after evading several British fleets in the Mediterranean Sea. Soon after the arrival of the ships, they were accepted by the Ottomans and renamed the Yavuz and Medili. Under command of a German general, they attacked Russian coasts, establishing the Ottomans in World War I. The failure of the British Navy to intercept the German cruisers was a turning point in history as it catapulted the Ottomans into World War I, caused the fall of the Ottoman Empire, thousands of unnecessary deaths on both sides, the birth of a new Turkish Republic, and the Armenian Genocide. Throughout the 19th century, the Turks were known as the sick man of Europe. Failing to modernize unlike the rest of Europe, they were economically enslaved to modernized European nations, such as Britain, France, and Germany. In 1878, Russian troops conquered both Bulgaria and Romania, positioning them at the gate of Constantinople. Alarmed by Russia's sudden expansion, Western European nations set up a conference in Berlin with the German Chancellor, Otto von Bismarck, as president. He authorized the Treaty of Berlin, which held Russian threats out of Turkey. Yet, embarrassed by such a loss in the war, Ottomans determined to redeem themselves. The Turks decided to seek the Germans as an ally. To the Turks, Germany was a savior. While the British and French offered friendship and assistance, when times were good, Germany had stepped in when the Turks were down. The Sultan, Abdul Hamid, never forgot that when he had turned to the British Empire during his recent war with Russia, he was met with silence. The question then stood, why did the Germans save the Ottomans? In the 1880s, Germany acquired an interest in valuable Middle Eastern resources, such as Persian oil, gypsum, and coal, which could have provided success in their economy during World War I. However, the Germans could only access these resources through the Ottoman Empire. In 1888, the Deutsche Bank of Germany signed a contract with the Turks to operate the Hyder Pasha Izmit Railway, also known as the Berlin-Baghdad Railway, which would run from Berlin through Turkey and into the heart of the Middle East. The railway would help the Germans obtain tactical military positions in the Middle East and control the global trade route, the Suez Canal. On the eve of the Great War, the neutral Ottomans realized they had to pick a side and fight. Fortunately, the Sultan, Mehmed V, looked to an alliance as a chance to recover their disaster of an economy. Yet fighting in the war was never something they intended to do. The Ottomans are allied with the Germans with the intentions of preserving their nation. On the 3rd of August 1914, the SMS Goeben and Breslau, two German superships, were suspiciously stationed in the Mediterranean. Under command of the Counter-Admiral Wilhelm Souchon, they set off to the French Algerian coast to bombard ports of Bona and Philippeville. Executed in line with the von Schlieffen plan for an attack on Belgium, war was declared between Germany and France. The German ships then proceeded back to Messina to refuel. French commander Admiral de la Pierre, under the impression that they would continue west, sent no ships to follow them. The British Royal Navy protected the French coast due to a pre-war agreement. La Pierre believed the Royal Navy would engage the Goeben and Breslau. As the Goeben continued towards Messina, it nonchalantly passed the British battle cruisers Indomitable and Indefatigable, under command of Admiral Sir Archibald Milne, which made contact at 9:30 on the 4th of August before war was declared between Britain and Germany. As the ships passed, the British did not attack in respect of the present neutrality. Following the encounter, Milne and his fleet failed to inform the Admiralty that the German ships were headed east. Unaware of the situation, the Admiralty did not send more ships to confront the German battlecruisers. Although the Goeben was suffering from boiler defects, so were the British ships. Later that day, war was declared between Germany and Britain. Milne, also impaired from boiler damage, could not pursue the German ships, allowing them to slip through the Strait of Messina and escape to the east. In their path to Constantinople rested the Admiral Trowbridge's fleet, who neglected to attack the German ships out of fear. Also, the German ship, the Gloucester, was in the path, but it was forced to disengage, as it would have been destroyed. On August 16th, Souchon reached Constantinople safely, and only 19 days after the emergence of World War I. Global maritime laws allowed neutral warships 24 hours in foreign waters before having to declare peace or war. The Germans purposefully overstayed the 24 hours in order to force an alliance with Turkey. It became clear that Germany intended to force the alliance following the years of building a relationship. The new alliance formed between Germany and Turkey gained control of the Dardanelles for the Central Powers. This blocked off the trade through the Black Sea, cutting Russian import and export traffic by 90%. This limited the Russian military munitions and attributed to their military immobilization. The Germans believed that if the Russians were unable to travel quickly to battle, they would not have to battle both the French and Russians at the same time. This way, they could concentrate their military in one place and not have to divide them up. The Germans could battle the French and British in the west, and then defeat the Russians in the east. In the fall of 1914, Enver Pasha, the minister of the Ottoman military, inspired by the new alliance with the Central Powers, planned a major attack on Russia, known as the Caucasus Campaign. Unfortunately, he was utterly defeated in nearly every battle. Due to the massive discrimination in Turkey, thousands upon thousands of Armenians rushed to the aid of the Tsar, Nicholas II of Russia, as he offered them a greater opportunity. Infuriated by the Armenian rebellion, the Ottoman government initiated the Armenian genocide, as their military losses were the fault of the Armenians. On April 24, 1915, also known as Red Sunday, nearly 250 Armenian intellectuals were arrested and imprisoned. Following Red Sunday, over 5,000 Armenians were burned, thousands more were drowned and poisoned by morphine, toxic gases, and typhoid. On May 19th, the Ottomans instated the temporary law of deportation, as the government deemed all Armenians a threat to national security. Militants were authorized to deport all Armenians. The temporary law of expropriation and confiscation then allowed the militants to confiscate all land and goods owned by the Armenians. The Ottoman Empire should be cleaned up of the Armenians and the Lebanese. We have destroyed the former by the sword. We shall destroy the latter through starvation. Until 1918, systematic death marches were authorized to transport Armenians to death camps. An estimated 500,000 Armenians were killed during this genocide. Had the Ottomans never joined the Central Powers, would such a genocide have happened? Coinciding with the birth of the Caucasus Campaign, on November 25, 1914, Winston Churchill suggested that the Allied forces set up a front at the Dardanelles Straits. The object of this movement would be to divide the German forces to aid the Ottomans. This would give the Allies time to fight a much smaller, and therefore weaker German force. The War Council agreed upon Churchill's plan to send naval and marine force in February. By mid-March, the British had launched a sufficient fleet of battleships into the Dardanelles. On March 18, 1915, two-thirds of these ships were destroyed in the effort. 6 days later, a frontal land assault on the Ottomans resulted in an unprecedented 252,000 casualties and 46,000 deaths for the British and French troops, while the Ottoman troops suffered 250,000 casualties and 65,000 deaths. Tactically, the battle made no advancement for the Allies against the Germans. Yet 300,000 troops died for the effort. Had Suchan's actions with the Goeben and Breslau been prevented by Milne and his fleet, the Battle of Gallipoli may never have happened. The 19th century was a period of great economic decline for the Ottomans. Some historians accredit their eventual collapse to their declining economic strength. However, countries do not simply collapse entirely due to a bad economy. The sheer size, cultural segregation, and reluctance to surrender traditions prevented military, social, economic, and political modernization. Still controlled by the Sunni Muslim Caliphate, the state refused to give women equal rights. They did not invest in new military technologies even though their janissaries were outdated hundreds of years. In 1918, the British declared an armistice of Mudros with the Ottomans. Under the terms of the armistice, the Ottomans surrendered strongholds in Hejaz, Yemen, Syria, Mesopotamia, and Tripolitania. The Allies declared their right to occupy the Dardanelles and Bosporus Straits, Batum, the Taurus Tunnel system, and Armenia. This reduced their empire size to only Anatolia, the land of modern-day Turkey. A key leader in Turkish post-World War I transition was Mustafa Kemal. His nationalism for Turkey was great, but he felt that the Ottoman Caliphate was nothing more than a dead weight on its people. On April 23, 1920, Kemal was elected the first president of Turkey. On October 13, 1923, Ankara was made the capital of Turkey. On the 20th, Turkey became a legitimate republic. As president of Turkey, Kemal aimed at westernization. He launched an era of revolutionary social and political reform. In 1924, Kemal abolished the caliphate and the canon law that discriminated non-Christians. In 1925, he closed theological schools, called madrasas, and reformed public education so that all children may attend. In 1926, he established international calendars, hours, and measurements. Most importantly, he established equal rights for men and women. Over the next 10 years, he subsidized universities, introduced women to parliamentary positions, introduced the Turkish alphabet, and abolished family titles. After 600 years of Muslim theocracy, his ideas were beyond radical. Yet despite this, the people accepted him and he rebuilt a failing nation. He also pursued foreign policies to establish not only neutrality with Europe, but friendly relationships as well. Before his death, he was given the name Ataturk, which means Father of the Turks. Turco-German relations, including the pursuit of the Goeben and Breslau, remains a vague time in history, forgotten by many. However, it catapulted the Ottomans into World War I. There really were no other ways in which the Ottoman Empire would have fallen without being broken up by the treaties of post-World War I. It transformed a 600-year caliphate empire into a modern, westernized Republic of Turkey that still thrives to this day.